You know, sometimes you get too much of a good thing. Some of these Trump surrogates are so skilled in not answering the question, it at some point gets a little sickening. Steve Kornacki is not the strongest host or analytical person or actually aggressive person as far as getting questions answered. He's going to interview Katrina Pierson, ask her a bunch of questions of which she never answers any, and all she does is successfully change the particular subject or focus of the question. And by the end of this interview, I was so sick of her using this guy like a tool that I almost didn't watch it all the way to the end. Here you go.
And the backdrop for that speech Hillary Clinton delivered today, it's a scathing new report blasting Trump's economic program, and it comes from Moody's Analytics. Now, Moody's is part of a major credit rating agency. It's highly respected in the industry. The report's lead author, Mark Zandi, saying, quote, if Mr. Trump gets precisely what he's proposed, then the U.S. economy will suffer meaningfully. Now, we should note that that lead author we're talking about there, Mark Zandi, he is a registered Democrat. He has donated to Hillary Clinton. He has also worked with Republicans in the past. He was an advisor, for instance, to John McCain's presidential campaign back in 2008. But let's take a closer look here at what this report is saying. So you can see here Trump's economic plan, some of the key aspects of the economic plan that this report is looking at. They are looking at his calls for tax cuts. They're across-the-board sweeping tax cuts. They're also looking at his insistence that he will not cut the social safety net, Social Security, and Medicare. Of course, there's also that question of immigration. Trump saying that people who are in this country illegally, that they should be deported. Potentially, that could mean millions of people, up to 11 million people. They're looking in this report, they say, at the impact that that would have on the labor market in this country. And so you can see some of the findings there. According to this Moody's assessment of Trump's plan, they are looking at the impact that that immigration plan would have on the labor market. They're also saying that by cutting taxes so much and not identifying where you're going to cut spending, you would blow an even bigger hole in the deficit. Also, Moody's suggesting a recession could be in the offing if Trump's plan were implemented as it is currently presented. Again, that is coming from Moody's today. That report came out just before Hillary Clinton gave her speech going after Donald Trump on the economy. You just heard from the Clinton side. Now here to joining us from the Trump campaign, his national spokesperson, Katrina Pierson. So, Katrina, you heard what Hillary Clinton said in the speech today. You're also getting it from Moody's. You saw what their report said about Donald Trump's economic plan. What's your response?
Well, I appreciate you also including that this particular author is also a Hillary Clinton donor, and this release was quite timely with her campaign speech on the economy, but I will say that they've also left out trade renegotiation, as well as getting rid of Obamacare, which so far has killed 2 million jobs. And it doesn't mention the 90+ million people who've been out of work under this administration. And look, I don't think anybody thinks that Donald Trump would be bad for the economy with regards to the voters. Of course, we're going to hear the pundits and the politicians talk about this, but the reality is Donald Trump is a businessman. He is a job creator, and for decades has a record of doing just that, creating jobs. And that's what's really important. And come November, that's really going to be at the top of the ticket. And that's why in polling, Mr. Trump is still doing very well with the economy, because at the end of the day, the economy is what lets every individual, regardless of where you come from or your background, be successful. You have to have a job. And I think that's really important.
Did she talk 2 minutes? I mean, seriously, she actually spoke for 2 minutes. Now, number one, when you can't defend yourself, you always attack the messenger. So the first thing she attacked was Moody's as far as being someone who supported Clinton. But we already knew that. And we also already knew that the guy doesn't really play a lot of favorites because he supported Republicans in the past. Okay, number two, he basically looked at 3 items, okay, and analyzed 3 items. He didn't analyze anything or give any fiscal impact of any of the other stuff that she mentioned. So he didn't say that those things were going to make things even worse. He just analyzed those three things. So that's the thing about these Trump surrogates. They basically will not answer a straight question, and they are always trying to deflect and defer out away from your original question into something that they consider to be a source of strength. Katrina does an excellent job of it, but it gets so sickening sometimes when you're listening for a question and right off the bat she jumps off into something else that it just starts to turn me off. I don't know about everybody else.
I want to ask you, too, about something that Donald Trump said in response to Hillary Clinton's speech. She was going after him on debt, on the bankruptcies that some of his casinos in Atlantic City were involved in. In response, he tweeted this out today. He said, "I am the king of debt. That has been great for me as a businessman, but it is bad for the country. I made a fortune off debt. We'll fix U.S." How exactly does that work? That debt is bad for a company, is bad for a country, but good for a company?
Well, I think that's different when you're looking at a businessman, someone who has to create debt to make payroll and then bring that money back in. There's a lot of mechanisms involved there when it comes to business and job creation. But I will say this also goes to show just how completely out of touch Hillary Clinton is when it comes to the economy, because by pointing out a couple of entities that went bankrupt just really goes to show her she doesn't understand what the American economy is like, what entrepreneurship is about, how small businesses work. In fact, 65% of the new jobs since 1995 in America.
All right, she's over there changing the damn subject again. Any which way you wash it, bankruptcy is bad unless you're a robber baron that wants to take advantage of a company that's in bankruptcy in order to acquire assets well below market, or a company well below market, either flip it, break it up and sell it, or fix it and instantly reap the profits of a healthy company. So, Katrina, you don't know what the basis of business is. The number one rule in business is to make money. It's not to file bankruptcy.
America have come from people who wanted to create a business. Donald Trump wants to inspire people to go out there and to try things and to do new things and create jobs, whereas Hillary Clinton is looking at that as a bad thing. When Mr. Trump has hundreds, and I mean over 500 entities that have been extremely successful, he's a billionaire. So I don't think the country is going to want to take business advice from Hillary Clinton, someone who's been involved in government and created her wealth through crooked means.
How do we know that Trump is a billionaire? Because we still haven't seen his tax returns. So you can claim to be a billionaire all you want. You can claim your hair is red, but until somebody actually sees your hair, there's no proof that your hair is red.
Hillary Clinton also charging today that Donald Trump would, in her words, rig the economy for Wall Street again. The basis for that seems to be, she says, look, the major response from this country to the economic meltdown 8 years ago was to pass what's known as the Dodd-Frank Bank Reform Law, also to create the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. As part of that, Donald Trump saying he would do away with both of those. What would he replace them with? How would that not rig the system back in Wall Street's favor?
Well, look, you're talking about Hillary Clinton, someone who has been rigging the system. Just ask Elizabeth Warren how she helped out the banks and the bailouts when it came to actually voting for or against reforms. Hillary Clinton is the one that's going around giving speeches to Goldman Sachs, and she won't tell anyone what's in them. Donald Trump's not interested.
Katrina, we covered that when I talked to Austin Goolsbee. I asked him about the Wall Street money Hillary Clinton's taken. I asked him about the speeches she's delivered. But I'm asking you, from Donald Trump's standpoint, the charge here is he would rig the economy again in Wall Street's favor because he would undo everything that's been done in response to the meltdown 8 years ago. How would that not be the case?
Thank you, Steve. You finally did a follow-up and stopped her from filibustering and changing the subject, but she's gonna do it again.
Well, if I could finish my sentence, Donald Trump's not interested in rigging anything. He's interested in leveling the playing field. You can't tie the hands behind the back. And that's exactly what happens with some of these reforms that are in favor of the banks, in favor of the policy, for example, that's too big to fail. No one should be too big to fail. Hillary Clinton supports Wall Street. She gets the most money from Wall Street. She is the Goldman Sachs candidate. Mr. Trump doesn't want those regulations to hurt the average person who maybe wants to take out a loan to start a business, to create jobs, and you can't do that right now because of things like Dodd-Frank.
Bullshit. Dodd-Frank is designed specifically in order to protect the consumers and to limit the banking industry. That is such a crock of shit. I can't believe that you let it come out of your mouth. If Dodd-Frank were so goddamn bad as far as the economy was concerned, why are the Republicans basically bit by bit trying to tear the damn thing down in order to benefit their banking buddies? Now, let's get to something that's even more important, the Consumer Protection Bureau. The sole job of the Consumer Protection Bureau is to protect consumers. Since the inception of that bureau, it has gotten consumers back approximately $5 billion that they were wrongfully built out of by banks and big businesses. So what kind of bullshit is that you want to get rid of something that is obviously helping the consumers? Nah. Double talk does not work when people know what's actually going on. And too bad Steve Kornacki can't really push your ass to the wall.
I also want to ask you, and we will get into more of this later, but Donald Trump was giving a speech today to a group of evangelical leaders, and the audio from that has leaked out. He made a comment here that's getting some attention on the subject of religion and Hillary Clinton, saying that we don't know anything, quote, about Hillary in terms of religion. She's been in the public eye for years, and yet there's nothing out there. There's like nothing out there. It's, sorry, I'm just reading this as it comes to me. It's going to be an extension of Obama, but it's going to be worse. Because with Obama, you had your guard up. With Hillary, you don't. And it's going to be worse. What is he questioning there exactly in terms of her religion? She's a Methodist. She's written about this. She's spoken about this. She's spoken about her faith. What is he questioning there?
Well, I think he's just talking about the double standard. I mean, you hear a lot about Donald Trump and his faith, and it has been questioned along the campaign trail, and he's pointing out the double standard. But, you know, now...
What double standard? Who the hell that is a religious person doesn't know it's 2 Corinthians, but he calls it 2 Corinthians? Give me a fucking break. Clinton, at least, you know, she's written about her faith, and you can go back and see documented examples of her actually practicing her faith both in her community and elsewhere. Trump, when was the last time you saw him go to church before he actually got in this damn campaign? He's full of shit. He knows nothing about the Bible. The guy's probably, you know, he calls himself, a Presbyterian, but he's probably a goddamn atheist.
Now that I think about it, I mean, we are talking about the Democrat Party, a party that voted God out of their actual platform nationally. So I think that is interesting, and considering how we have people all over the globe, Christians being beheaded, and yet here in the United States, this administration, the Clinton-Obama policy of political correctness, essentially not even wanting to talk and say what's going on, that's happening to Christians all across the country. And now that we have an opportunity to deal with this issue, you have Obama and Clinton turning it into some sort of gun control other than radical Islamic extremists who have set out.
Oh, stop. She's changed the subject like 4 times already. Answer the goddamn question. But again, you're not going to.
To hurt Christians, not just at home, but abroad.
All right, Katrina Pierson with the Trump campaign. Thanks for coming on.
Great to be here. Thank you.
She did not answer one single goddamn question. She twisted every question he asked her into something else. And even when he tried to do a follow-up, she didn't even answer the question then. See, this broad, you need to get her in front of Chris Matthews or Mike Wallace and handcuff her to the goddamn chair with electrodes. And every time she doesn't answer a question, she needs to get an electric shock. So maybe you might get an answer out of her at that point. Jesus Christ.